Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into my official line movement update video here for week number 13, the final week of the regular season, and probably the last line movement video I'm going to do here. I guess it'll depend what happens with the bowl games and stuff like that, but they're just so staggered, I don't know. I am using this different site that I found. You guys can see they give you like one free game to see, like the public or whatever, and then they have everything else is locked here. It's just such a joke. They expect me to chill out. They got like, oh, we got a Black Friday sale. Instead of $500, it's $400. Like, it's not that much. It's like $100, but nobody's paying that. So it's fine. Really, I just want to see the difference in terms of the line. Normally, I can remember it, but it is nice to have this reference here. So Arizona State, you can see a lot of the money actually on Arizona State. So this tells me the general public is on Arizona. I would honestly be on Arizona -4, but the professional bettors are betting Arizona State plus the 4, plus the 4.5. Arizona State seems like a dead program to me. NC State and North Carolina. We're looking at North Carolina. They've stayed right around 6. A lot of money on North Carolina, even in possible wet conditions. New Mexico, Colorado State. Colorado State was -7.5. It got bet down to 7. I guess it's back up to 7.5. But yeah, there were some good value on New Mexico State plus 7.5. It's just you're fading Colorado State because they're so bad. A lot of money on Missouri in this Missouri-Arkansas game. They are at home. Arkansas does have a bad run defense. The moral of the story with that game, both of those teams are just really inconsistent. I mean, Arkansas just crushed Ole Miss, but how good is Ole Miss really, right? Nebraska, Iowa, more money on Nebraska. That doesn't surprise me. See, this is the main issue I have with this. It says it opened plus 3.5. That's the preseason line. Why would I care what the preseason line is? I want to know what it was at the beginning of the week and what it is now. And Nebraska, Iowa's basically been Nebraska plus 10.5 throughout the entire week. That has surprised me, even after the Sam Laporta injury news. Nebraska not coming down a little bit. I think Nebraska is good value plus 10.5. UCLA, California. UCLA trending here, guys, heavily. A lot of money coming in on UCLA. They were -9, now they're -11.5. Kind of surprising here. I'm surprised more of the general public hasn't bet up this Florida State line. It's at -10 right now. I guess you don't want to overthink things. I feel like the general public is overthinking this, thinking it's going to be a closer game due to the rivalry when every indication points to a massive Florida State victory. But again, we'll see. And then this line has come down. So people betting on Wyoming. Fresno State, I think, was -16. Look at that. Public, 75% of the money on Wyoming. It's down to 14.5. There has been a trend in the Wyoming games. The team that's the favorite never covers, whether it's Wyoming or the team facing Wyoming. And then moving on to the Saturday games, Rutgers, Maryland. Maryland is still -14. That line hasn't moved at all over Rutgers at home. I mean, what are we going to get? I was contemplating, in talking about this game and maybe including it in a feature bet or a best bet, but I just don't know what Maryland team we're going to get. I think Maryland knew they had the spotlight last week against Ohio State. They caught lightning in a bottle. And it's like, well, if they play like that again, they're going to crush Rutgers, but will they really play like that again? Nobody's going to be watching their game. I don't know. It's impossible to bet on Maryland right now. South Carolina, Clemson, a lot of money on South Carolina, plus the 14.5. I think South Carolina probably is good value. Again, South Carolina is a very inconsistent team. We'll see what happens, though. West Virginia, Oklahoma State, that line is trending down now. Some people betting on West Virginia, a little bit more money coming in on Oklahoma State. I would just stay away from betting on Oklahoma State, guys. Michigan and Ohio State, the big game. The money is split even. And Ohio State right now, according to a lot of sports books, they were trending around 7.5. It got bet back up to 8 earlier. So I think the official line right now is Ohio State -8. It'll probably move once or twice more. I would probably assume it would trend in Ohio State's direction based on the weather update that we got, where it's going to be beautiful tomorrow, which would seemingly favor Ohio State. I mean, we're talking like mid-50s and sunny. But either way, that money is split even. You've got people on Michigan who think they're great value. You've got people on Ohio State who are worried about the injury to Blake Corum, and they're looking at the nice weather. Money coming in on Liberty over New Mexico State. I don't know. Flip a coin. 24.5 for Liberty. I don't know. Army, UMass, very similar. UMass, normally I would say bet Army here, but UMass is not a complete skeleton this year. They have a little bit of fight. James Madison, they've been minus 14.5 forever against Coastal Carolina without Grayson McCall. A lot of people betting on Georgia to cover a massive spread. I remember that opening. It did not open at 30. It opened, I think, at 35, and then it got bet up to 36.5. There are a lot of models that like Georgia to cover by a lot. A lot of money on here's a big one. Western Kentucky. They're down to minus 7.5 over FAU. The general public hates FAU. No one ever bets on them. And a lot of money coming in on Western Kentucky to bounce back after their bad loss to Auburn. They're trending. That's been bet to a point to 7.5. Some money coming in on Old Dominion. That's been bet down to 15.5 against South Alabama. South Alabama at home. It's understandable why you would bet on Old Dominion, but I've had really bad luck with them. I'm going to stay away. Marshall, tons of money on Marshall, and I have to say I understand why. Marshall's been great the past month against Georgia State at home. That's minus 5.5 right now. The line really hasn't moved, but 80% of the money on Marshall. East Carolina Temple. Wow, this has moved a bit. It's moved a few points in the direction of Temple. Temple is trending right now. And guys, that makes sense. East Carolina had a horrible performance last week against Houston. They laid a total egg at home. They scored 3 points. This is a Temple team. They also laid an egg last week against a good Cincinnati team. Now they're at home. Of course, they have a horrible atmosphere at home. They play at the Eagles' home stadium. This one surprised me a little bit, guys. There is a lot of people that love Kent State +4, but the general public is betting on Buffalo. So this will be interesting to see what happens. Buffalo minus the 4 right now. Akron and Northern Illinois, that line's been minus 10 forever. I love Northern Illinois. They've been one of the most unlucky teams in college football. I think they're going to trounce Akron personally. My goodness. This is where you start saying it's too good to be true. 94% of the money on North Texas. They opened minus 13.5. I said to hammer it. It's at minus 14.5 right now, but 94. Normally that ends up losing when there's 94%. Well, normally it's like 50-50 chance, but that's a lot of the money going against Rice. Louisville +3, so that's trended a little bit. Kentucky opened -4. Should be a very close, low-scoring game. I'm not interested in betting on Kentucky football games right now. Memphis and SMU, that line has stayed extremely stagnant. It's interesting. The SP Plus actually has Memphis winning this game outright, but Memphis' offense is extremely hit or miss. They're either really good or they're not good at all. Purdue and Indiana, a lot of money coming in on Indiana because Purdue on the road, their offense especially, is terrible. It's understandable. Wake Forest and Duke, we've got that line right now at 3.5. And the under is actually, I hear the play in this one. I believe it's the under, the under 63 or something like that. Minnesota and Wisconsin. I love Minnesota +3.5. That is an attractive line. Imagine it was +9.5. That's the opening. That's before the season starts. That's the preseason spread. Why would I care the context of the preseason spread? I don't understand that. But they show it for no reason. Either way, so 50-50. I'm really at a loss for why people are betting on Wisconsin. It's bad value. I mean, Wisconsin might win this game, but I feel like it'll be close and low scoring. Minnesota can run the ball. Neither of these teams really can generate anything. I guess you could say Wisconsin is at home, and there's so much parity in the West that you would say the home team would win. It's going to be a defensive game. Illinois Northwestern, money trending for Illinois. A lot of people like Illinois this week to win huge. And it's because you look at Illinois' performance last week against Michigan, Chase Brown looking extremely healthy. It's understandable. Northwestern is a completely dead program at this point. A lot of people on Illinois to win huge. We've got this line, which is down to 3. It was at 3.5. So there's a little bit of money. It looks like more of the general public betting on Oregon. I would advise against that, guys. I think Oregon probably wins this game by a field goal, but if you're looking at value, I would say Oregon State has more value. San Jose State, they've been trending, man. A lot of people betting on San Jose State. I've seen other things where San Jose State is getting 90% of the money. Here they're at 57 according to this website, but yeah, Hawaii, a lot of people are fading Hawaii, even with Hawaii kind of playing better recently. Alabama and Auburn, a lot of money on Auburn, not surprising at all. Alabama, virtually nothing to play for. It is a lost season for them. They're disappointed. They're dejected. They had a pretty just blah performance against Austin Peay where they were 44-point favorites and only scored 34 points. And Auburn is a team that has some energy with Cadillac Williams as the interim head coach. So we understand. I respect that. What the general public is doing there. Troy and Arkansas State, that line is stayed at minus 13.5 for Troy, and it's a dead even heat, 50-50. So, you look at Troy and Arkansas State, I would probably lean towards, I'd probably pass on, I'd probably say maybe Troy. Troy is a good team. Arkansas State, has not been good. UAB, Louisiana Tech, that line basically the same. UTEP, UTSA, a lot of money on UTEP. I would disagree with that. I think UTSA is a runaway freight train right now. This surprises me, to be honest with you guys, people betting on Colorado. So Colorado's been in a very similar spot. This is like the fourth straight week they've been 30-point underdogs, and they never are able to cover. And I think Utah might be maybe the best team in the Pac-12, even though they have 3 losses, I know. I still think they're really quality, but maybe people are saying Colorado is due for a cover. They're at home. I guess that's what people are thinking. Iowa State and TCU, that line trending down. Not surprising. Iowa State is way better than their record. That'll be a close game. I agree. Michigan State, Penn State. This is crazy, guys. Penn State, I think, opened minus 18. They didn't open minus 10. They opened minus 18. They're minus 19.5. So a lot of money coming in on Penn State. This is understandable the way Penn State has played recently. And then MSU doesn't help themselves by losing to Indiana at home in overtime. We've got Southern Miss. Yeah, guys, Southern Miss is a bet this week for sure. Minus the 3.5 at UL Monroe. Louisiana minus 4.5 at Texas State. That line's basically stayed the same. Middle Tennessee, people betting on FIU against Middle Tennessee. I was interested to see what that would open at. I think it opened minus 20 for Middle Tennessee State. I'm guessing they'll cover. I mean, it looks like FIU is back to being the worst team in FBS. A lot of money coming in on App State minus the 4, which has actually been bet up to minus 5 now. And Georgia Southern is plus 6.5 in a few different places. Wow. Georgia Southern not good on defense. Appalachian State going to try and control that game. Nevada and UNLV, that line's simmering right around 12.5. Those are 2 really bad teams, really bad football. UCF and South Florida. UCF is getting hammered right now, guys. They were minus 18. They're up to minus 20.5 right now. LSU and A&M, that line is at right around 9.5, 10. A lot of money on LSU. People are fading Jimbo. They're fading this A&M team because they are really bad this year. It's understandable. But A&M is at home, and I really don't buy LSU guys at all. I think LSU is severely overranked. Tulsa and Houston. That line sitting at Houston minus 12. I do like Houston to cover that line personally. I love Boston College plus the 10.5. The public is against me. The public is rolling with Syracuse minus the 10.5 on the road, probably due to Boston College's performance last week. Notre Dame and USC, more money coming in on Notre Dame. It's not surprising. Notre Dame, I think, was plus 6. Then they were plus 5. Now they're plus 5.5. So it's kind of... It's trended right around there, but I like Notre Dame to win this game outright. I love Oklahoma, guys. The public likes Texas Tech. They've been minus 2 this whole week. I think Oklahoma wins this game and then covers the spread. So this line has seen a significant decrease, obviously, with the Tennessee injury to Hendon Hooker. They opened minus 17. It's all the way down to 13.5, so less than 2 touchdowns, and a lot of money coming in on Vanderbilt. I think the smart play is Vanderbilt here, guys, with the backup quarterback, even though, Joe Milton does have some experience. We understand that. We'll still roll with Vanderbilt, especially the way they're playing, especially with that horrible Tennessee defense. Kansas and Kansas State, I agree with this. I think you need to be betting on Kansas State 100%. Kansas's defense is so bad. Kansas State knows if they win, they're in terms of the Big 12 championship. Pittsburgh and Miami, I mean, I would say take the over 44, but I don't know. Pittsburgh minus 6.5. Miami is just so bad against the spread. I think people are just fading them. I think Miami is the worst team in FBS against the spread. I believe they're 2-9 right now. So people are probably just fading them at this point, trying to take advantage of it. Air Force, I think they opened 2.5-point underdogs. They're 1-point favorites now. It does actually. You know what? I think Air Force opened. Yeah, no, Air Force opened 2-point favorites. Guys, Air Force is just better than San Diego State. That's pretty much all I can say. They're going to win this game. Washington and Washington State. How about this line? It's down. Well, actually, I think it's down to 1.5 to 2, which is kind of where it's been. And yeah, I like Washington State to win a higher scoring game. And then we do have this situation right here. BYU and Stanford, the final game, an 11 p.m. start there. BYU listed as the favorites. I've seen a lot of models that love the over in the BYU Stanford game. That's pretty much all I can say about it. When it comes to the line, minus 6.5, I would pass. I don't know. BYU has a good, really, really good offense, a bad defense. Could that be David Shaw's last game with Stanford? I don't think so. I think they'll probably give him another year. But I feel like programs are trying to be more proactive, so it wouldn't surprise me if David Shaw gets crushed against BYU. Something happens to him, and he would make a great coordinator, I'm sure. But either way, guys, that's just the line movement update here for Week 13. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.